Are you being productive? Or are you just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling? It's so hard to stay focused in this world because there's, you know, squirrels everywhere. And believe me, I know, I chase them too. With TikToks and YouTubes and, you know, Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest and basically every app that you can think of, you're constantly bouncing around and, you know, never really focusing like you used to. And I know that bothers a lot of people. It bothers me. When the pandemic hit, I seriously couldn't focus on anything, and I had tons of extra time on my hands because I was at home, I wasn't going anywhere, and yet I wasn't producing like I thought I should. And I feel like everybody kind of got into this rut, or a lot of people, and they don't know how to get out. I was able to figure ways to get out, but a lot of people are still like, you know, I haven't written in 2 years, or, you know, I haven't done this for my business, or, you know, whatever. So, I wanted to run through some of my tips. They're actually in a book that I have. I'll show you, I'll show you the cover at the end if you guys want to know what it is and tell you a little bit about it. But I really wanted to give you the meat of the book. It's not just for writers, but it is written towards writers, so I feel like it's pretty helpful. So it's a good reminder, even to myself. I've had to reread my own book because I'm like, oh my gosh, how do I become, you know, a productive person? Like, I know I can do this. So anyway, excuse this informal video, but I figured you guys would enjoy just, you know, one-to-one. You are going to want to identify your problem. And you're probably like scrolling through your phone. I don't have a problem. What are you talking about? I don't have a problem. I don't know what you're saying. What? Yeah, okay, so maybe your problem is that you're easily distracted, okay? That's a huge problem. And in this day and age, everything's a distraction. It's why people are reading shorter books, because they can't stay focused as long. That's why people, you know, like in the book world, people are reading like serialized content because they can read like a chapter at a time and then they move on. It's just so much more difficult nowadays to just completely immerse yourself into a long, drawn out thing. And, you know, novel writing is a long, drawn out thing. So I really want to help you to find your focus and, you know, figure out where you are having your issues and fix them. So you need to sit down and identify your problem. Like, okay, look at yourself. Christy, why aren't we writing? Okay, well, I'm looking at Facebook. Okay, well, right there, you answered your question. Your problem is Facebook. So maybe you should set up a little schedule for yourself, because you go straight over to the app every time you aren't feeling like you want to write, or you're blocked or whatever. So put it on a schedule. Don't just open it whenever you feel like it, okay? It's not there for you to go, you know, scroll through willy-nilly. And I need to have this talk with myself all the time, because that's what I do. When I'm bored or I have a second, I go scroll through social media. So now that you have identified your problem, we are going to make a plan. So making a plan has several steps. You are going to need to brainstorm. What is it that you're wanting to write? Maybe you're starting something new. Maybe you're picking something up. You really need to get your head around the whole thing and really dive in and figure out like what's going on. Why am I not doing this? Then you're going to need to break it down piece by piece, organize it, set the scene, maybe play some music, whatever it is, but get it ready, okay? So that's what you're doing. You're getting it ready. You're reminding yourself, hey, I'm supposed to write this. Stop squirreling out. So an example is I had been not too excited to write, or I had written a story, finished it, wasn't too excited to do all the hard stuff, like do the editing and do the cover and do the teasers and set the release date and like all of the things. Finally, I had to sit myself down and say, okay, like why? Like what's going on? Like, okay, just put it on the calendar and then you'll be forced to do it. So I put the date on the calendar. I set it up with my editor. So then it's like, oh, now I have 2 weeks to, you know, read through it and make sure it's good. So I start reading through it and I'm like, this book's really good. I wouldn't have remembered that if I would have just kept blowing it off. So, and then I started to design the cover and I was like, wow, I love the cover. Like, and then I started getting excited. So it's all about like just pausing the outside world for just long enough to have a 30-minute little brainstorming session with yourself and then getting everything back on track because you started that book for a reason. You know, it really spoke to you at one time. So it's just a matter of finding it again. Now, so maybe you're not like me, maybe your story's not done, maybe you're writing your story. So you have organized your thoughts, you know what's going to happen with the story, you just need to sit down and write it. And this is where you need to be accountable. What I like to do is I like to create a spreadsheet, and there's actually lots of apps and programs that will allow, you know, for you to like track your word count, but I will just manually track it in my Word document and then save it into a spreadsheet. But being accountable daily is very helpful when you are writing and you're trying to meet writing goals. So maybe your goal is like 1 chapter a day, like 2,000 words, you know, 2 to 5,000 words, whatever. Well, you aren't going to hit those goals unless you know, put them out there and say, I have to hit this, and then I'm going to be accountable for it. And then when you start putting in too many 0 days or 500 word days, you start going, okay, no, I'm never going to get there like this. You know, it's easy when it's out of sight, out of mind. So it's good to put those words down, especially if you had a really good day. You're like, oh my gosh, I wrote 8,000 words today. Yay. You know, what am I going to do tomorrow? And also that's 8,000 words closer to the end. So be accountable. And another thing that you can do is there's a website called O-Write. I don't know if you guys have heard about it. I will make sure to include a link down in the bottom. But it's basically where you can write with your friends or other people. You can just join groups, and it shows their word count in real time, and you write within the program, but they don't see what you're writing, and then you can copy and paste it into your Word document when you're done. But there's this you know, sense of competition, kind of like, oh my gosh, I see their word count just moving and mine's just sitting there because I'm looking at Facebook. Oh my gosh, put it away, I need to catch up, you know. So it's a really good way if you need some extra outside motivation, because let's face it, writing is a very lonely job. So yeah, definitely check that out if you need that little bit of help. Okay, again, avoid distractions. So your common distractions, you know what they are. You need to figure out how to stop getting distracted by them. So if that means turning off your notifications, then turn them off. Like, I turn off most of my notifications because they are distracting. When your watch buzzes or your phone buzzes, or, you know, a little ting shows up on your computer, it's so distracting. So I've turned off all of those because I cannot get pulled out of what I'm working on like that all the time. And a lot of times whenever I'm writing, I will just put my phone over here and not look at it while I'm writing, like, you know, a chapter straight or whatever, because it is way too distracting. There are times that I allow myself to peek at what's going on Facebook, but I make sure it's like a quick thing. So if I'm like eating lunch or something, I might pop up my phone and just scroll through Facebook, but it's like when lunch break's over, the phone goes back away and it's time to go back to work. So you gotta find those distractions and you gotta stop them. Another one is that you need to stick to a schedule. So a lot of people are like, well, I don't have that much time to write. You know, it's easy for you to say, Christy, because you write like, you know, a bazillion books, and that is, you know, I understand. I work from home. I don't have a second job. This is my full-time job. So yes, I have lots of time, but it doesn't mean that the distractions aren't there for me either. And, you know, working from home full-time, you know, you have to do all these things, and yeah, it's hard. So I totally understand. And having a limited amount of time makes it even harder. That's why you have to be like really in control of your time. So say you would like to write 2,000 words a week, but you only have 2 hours a week to write. You need to make sure that those 2 hours are solid writing. So even if that means like, okay, family, from 8 to 10, I'm writing. I'm going to go into this little closet and put my noise canceling headphones on and write a book. Nobody bother me. Like, you know, set it up to where it's a time where, you know, if you've got kids, you know, your significant other can help, or they're in bed, or, you know, just whatever. And then don't let anything else cut into that time. Like, you know, no doctor's appointment, like nothing. Not your favorite show, not dinner time, like nothing. Not phone calls from mom, nothing. Like that is your time to do the thing, and schedule it and make it a monthly or a weekly date with yourself. So once you start getting in that habit of scheduling that specific date for yourself, okay, if you have multiple days that you can write on, that's great, but you need to schedule them in. And having them scheduled on your calendar and blocked out, it helps you become more accountable and, you know, more defensive over those times for yourself. So when someone's like, oh, let's go do blah, 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 you can be like, I got to do something from 8 to 10, but how about we go, you know, at 10:30 or whatever, you know? So it's just all about scheduling and making sure that you are doing what you're going to do during those times. So make those schedules. Don't just fly by the seat of your pants. And if you are scheduling and you're doing a good job, you can also reward yourself. So maybe you tell yourself, okay, I am on a deadline with this book. I have to write 2,000 words a week on this book to meet my deadline, but I really want to write this other book. Okay, well, that's okay. You can reward yourself with that other book. Like make that the, you know, prize at the end of the road. Like, okay, if I can finish this one, I get to write that one. Or if I get my 2,000 words this week done and out of the way, I can also write on my story. So I do this all the time. That also brings me to what I call the 4 bouncing balls method. And that's where I work on multiple projects at once. And I do just this. I have like a schedule. I have deadlines for certain books, what I need to write each week. And when I meet that, then I'm free to work on the other stuff that I want to work on. So if you have a passion project or something that you really want to do, or a short story or a novella or something for your newsletter, like whatever it is, you can be like, okay, I'm gonna have this as like my bonus, you know? And so once you finish writing what you have set out and been scheduled to write, you can go and jump on this other project. So, and then what you'll notice is that you're slowly making progress on several things. And then all of a sudden you turn around and you're like, I have 4 books done. You know, that happens to me a lot. So yeah, that is, you know, just some tips on how to stay productive and how to get things done. And as promised, I told you I would tell you about the book that this all comes from so that you guys can read it. It's called Paused to Prolific. I need to update the cover because it says 80 published stories and counting, but now it's like 130. So, but yeah, this book helps you. It has little short exercises to help you identify what your problems are and how to set the scene and just all kinds of stuff. Like I go in depth with it all. It's also like a little workbook too, and it's got, you know, just all kinds of stuff in it. So it's paperback. A lot of people like paperback. If you're like me, if you have craft books or, you know, books that are helpful, I like to hold them in my hand. But it is also on ebook. And then I also had it done on audio because I know a lot of people like to listen, like that's their way. Like obviously you're on YouTube and you're watching, you're listening. So that might be a helpful way for you to retain the knowledge too. So anyway, I hope this was helpful. See you around next time.